Welcome to the Unfrosted edition of Sharing Sox. I'm Southside Sox duty geezer Leigh Allan. With me, my son and West Coast correspondent Will. And we're putting that title to the show because this is a free plug for the movie Unfrosted, which Will is briefly in. And which is, we're recording on Friday, the 3rd of May, and it's the day that it will premiere on Netflix. Although he got to be in a premiere with lots of famous people earlier this week and is still kind of hyped about it. So if he gets excited, just understand that that's the case. It's not the White Sox that are exciting him.
No, definitely not. I'm hyped and tired. It's a mix of both things, but recovering. But yeah, check out Unfrosted on Netflix right now. You can watch it this very second that you're hearing this podcast. Well, wait till the end of the podcast.
Yeah. All right. Meanwhile, the Chicago White Sox, at the point where we are recording, are 6-25, on pace to win about 32 games and be around that 130 loss mark, which should be interesting. And back to being, they had a brief moment one day when they weren't the worst team in the major leagues, because the Marlins are so horrible this year as well. But the Marlins have won a couple now, and it's gone the other way.
I mean, we also, since the last time we talked, we have swept a team.
And a team that his recent history is very, very, very good. They're not very good this year, but they're not horrible. And the Sox ran right through them. I was amazed at that, just a non-White Sox thing. One of my favorite non-White Sox players, and I think yours too, in all the major leagues, is Randy Arozarena. And he absolutely stinks this year. And he absolutely stunk in the White Sox series. If he'd hit during that series, it would have been another 0-3. But he's hitting one something. He might as well play for the White Sox.
I don't know what's going on with Arozarena this year. It will change. It will bounce back. But that definitely helped the White Sox get that sweep, which was devastating. People kept coming up to me like, "Wow, did you see the White Sox swept the Rays?" And I'm like, why are you celebrating? We're going for a record here, you guys. We're going for a record. This just really hurt our chances. But then after that, we leveled back out again. So I feel better about it.
It does present this season, so far at least, a strange psychological phenomenon, because you're right. Yes, this is the team we root for. We want them to do well. We root for most of the individual players. I'm not sure I root for all of these guys, but I root for most of them, almost all the time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're thinking, I could be around for a record.
And a juicy one, too. A juicy one. And if you do it well enough, it may never be broken. This is a big record. This is a big record to get, and I want it so bad.
And it doesn't, when they win a game, it just doesn't make any difference whether they lose 105 or 110 or 120. Once they get above 120, then it makes a difference, because we're records, although team record is set long before that. But it's fascinating in its own little way.
Yes, someone at Dodger Stadium the other day asked me, why do you want this record? And I said, well, we're going to lose over 100 games. We might lose 110 games. We're going to be dead last in the division. What am I rooting for if I'm not rooting for this? If we can't do something that's never been done before, what's the point in watching? What's the point in following along? We're going to be horrible. It's not like I can root for us to all of a sudden win the Central. So I'm like, let's go big. Let's go big and go home. That's what we should be doing here. I want that 120. I want that 121. Let's make it happen. It's exciting stuff.
It is. I mean, I find myself thinking this, why did you win this game? Why bother?
Yeah.
I don't think they're that bad. I don't think they're going to lose. I mean, they're very bad. They're very bad. But I don't think they're historically bad. I think some things will turn around, although it could then turn back around when they get rid of anybody who's any good around the trade deadline. I mean, they could
lose. I don't even know who that would be.
They can lose Tommy Pham? Right now, it's Eric Fetty.
I guess, yeah. Get rid of Fetty. Maybe Tommy Pham's going to find himself a better team to be on if he keeps playing like this.
Uh, yeah, I mean, Bam's a possibility. I don't think they're going to, trade Corey Lee, who right now is their best player. Uh, it's
I would hope
uh,
not. Yeah.
no, because I think the future of White Sox catching suddenly looks very good with Lee turning it around from a terrible end of the season last year and showing that he's a real major league ball player defensively too, very good defensively. And then we've got Eduardo Caro coming up. That's going to be a really really good 1-2 catching tandem. Caro he's in Birmingham, probably goes to Charlotte before the end of this season. I would think by midseason he's doing very well. He's hitting very well. And then next year, we have the two of them. You should get rid of Martin. What they should do with Martin Maldonado right now. He has raised his batting average to 100, but he's horrible defensively. He's next to Benintendi and Sosa as the worst defender according to Baseball Reference on the team. -3 defensive run save. Turn him
Wow.
into a coach. If you're saying this guy is marvelous with young pitchers and he's really tremendous with arms, make him a coach. You're going to pay him anyway, so pay him to coach. And
I
then
don't know how that works. I don't know if you
When's
can just say that. I don't think you can just say you're a coach now. My guess is Maldonado wants to be playing.
Well, you can say we're going to cut you,
Yeah.
but we'll keep you at your. Well, they have to pay him the salary anyway, so we will keep you on as a coach because we think you're very valuable with young pitchers. I mean, he can say no, but there's nothing much. Well, I guess if they cut him, he goes through waivers, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not saying anybody's going to pick him
25
up.
years in the league, so you can't just send him to Charlotte.
Right.
Yeah, I guess nobody's going to pick him up on waivers.
No, most likely not.
But then some team might take him because after he goes through waivers, then all of a sudden the White Sox are paying his salary, and whoever picks him up only has to pay league minimum. And somebody who just lost one of their catchers might do that.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the scenario in which somebody would pick him up, and catchers get hurt. So I can see that happening. I don't know why he's playing. I honestly don't know why we have any veterans playing on this team other than we just need warm bodies.
That's where I wanted to get to on this cast. Why? Tommy Pham has done really, really well since he's come over, and they've won games with Tommy Pham in the lineup, and that's great. And Tommy Pham is 36. Why are you playing somebody? And they got a bunch of guys in this category. Why are you paying these mid-30s guys to play for your team that's going to lose more than 100 games no matter what you do, instead of playing the young guys? And then there's the old, well, you brought him up too soon. Yeah. He gets to practice in the major leagues, have the major league coaches who presumably are the best in your system. Why? Why with these guys like him and Pilar? And so Pilar, I guess they just sent back down, but that's the kind of thing that they're filtering through.
I guess the argument is that our farm system's pretty terrible. So it's not like you can start bringing up guys that you necessarily think are going to make it to the show. You're kind of just bringing up warm bodies. I kind of see both sides, because if you bring up all these guys who probably aren't going to be good enough to be in Major League Baseball, then what kind of game is that? And
well,
then
that's true. That's true.
You bring in these veterans who are pretty much done with their careers. What kind of game is that, really? There's no win here with what's going on. I mean, there's no good option to make this team more watchable. It's what, when people ask me, like, do you really think that they can be this bad for this long and set that record? There's no sign on why that would change. It's not like, oh, we have 3 aces and they're all hurt and they're all coming back in July. Or, yes, we've got Luis Robert coming back at some point, but that's one guy. And as we've seen in Anaheim, having one really good guy or even 2 of the best players in the world doesn't necessarily make you a winning ball club. There's just no reason that this would ever turn around. The only thing in my head is some sort of weird, the universe has decided we're going to have a White Sox movie that's coming out in 2029 about the worst team ever. And all of a sudden, these guys who aren't very good just start playing at an in an incredibly different way. But that's all made up in my head. So there's no real reason why this team would possibly turn it around, no matter who's out there. So I understand the idea of bringing up these young guys, but there are very few of them in our system that I think actually will be Major League Baseball players. And then with the old guys, it's, you got to put bodies out there that can at least get you through 9 innings. I mean, that's all we're doing right now. We are fielding a team to just get through 9 innings. And
you sound to me like a hater. And I think John Strippen would have bad things to say about you if Benintendi ever hits another home run.
I don't have to worry about it then.
I don't know what was in Strippen's head, but boy, that was one of the stupider things I've ever heard an announcer come out with. And announcers often come out with stupid things. I can say that because I once was one, and I'm sure I came out with a lot of stupid things. But yeah.
Well, anyhow, what did he say? What did he say? I don't remember.
When Benintendi hit the walk-off homer in the 10th against Tampa Bay, and apparently his home run calls are what he's known for historically, although he's only ever in baseball done Korean ball, so I don't know how many he's had. But that's it. Take that, haters! Stand up, fans! What's he talking about? And he tried to get out of it later on, I think, on Twitter by saying, "Oh, I was referring to the Minnesota broadcasters."
Yes, of course, the Minnesota broadcasters who would be tuning into a White Sox Rays game.
You were kissing the butt of Jerry Reinsdorf, which is the integral part of your job because that's all that matters in White Sox.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even blame him. What else is he going to talk about? What else is he going to say? Is he going to stand up and say, "Hey, we won a game, buddies. Good job"? You got to say something. It's a dumb thing to say.
And I'm gonna write a piece on that. That first of all, it's very, very hard from going from being an ESPN announcer, very low level ESPN announcer, but neutral, where you're neutral in every game you do in every sport, to being the voice and face of a team, where you have to be for that team and cheering for that team, and it's not natural for him. And he's not a White Sox fan. It was natural for Jason Benetti when he came because he'd been a White Sox fan from birth. But it's not natural for Schiffman, and it sounds fake. And
that's exactly what that comment was.
Thing to do to come in for the first time in your life, you're actually with a team, and it's this bad. That's rough.
It is. It really is. And that's exactly where that haters comment comes from. It comes from, I don't actually have passion for this team, and it might be the worst team ever, but I have this job and I need to sound like I have passion for this team. Because honestly, I don't really think there are haters of the team right now. I don't think there's anybody out there being like, these guys should be 25-6, but they're not, because they're not playing well.
Hatred is for the organization.
Yeah, it's all for the organization.
And mainly for Jerry.
Honestly, I look at the stats and I look at what's happening on the field, and I'm like, these guys are doing exactly how I would expect them to do. Some of them are okay, some of them are really bad, some of them have some nice moments, some of them don't. It's exactly, look at the paper. It's on paper. You look at the lineup and they are performing exactly how I would expect them to perform. I have no hatred towards this team, this group of players whatsoever. They are going out there and trying to win despite an organization doing everything in their power, whether it's conscious or subconscious or ignorant or arrogant, to make them humiliated. and yet they're still going out there and playing.
And to have, I mean, I've watched some of these games where they're like, they'll say it's attendance is 10,000 and it's 52. I mean, it's two people in this section and three people in that section, and the upper deck's all closed off. The only time they've had any attendance over the very low teens is when they're giving away something that's worth more than the price of the ticket. They're giving away some very nice stuff, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So that's why Shrippen and Stoney are spending half the game talking about milkshakes.
Yeah, which is exactly, that sums up this season in a nutshell, right? Like you've got this team that nobody bothered to put any energy or effort into making them successful, and then you bring in a new announcer. You lose Benetti, who was the best thing for the White Sox in the past few years. The only reason to watch games was Benetti and Stone talking together, which was delightful. And now you spend your broadcast talking about milkshakes and giveaways, because there's nothing else to talk about. And that is the true tragedy of this season, is you're the announcers. You can't sit there and talk about how bad they are. You just can't. It's your job not to just sit there and do that. And that leaves them,
well, particularly if you're Shrippen. Stoney can do that because he's set. He's also,
but he doesn't.
He's also my age. He doesn't need the job. But he's kind of a company man, I guess. I'm not
exactly
on social media, but you've been and seen. I guess he gets really uppity about fans sometimes on Twitter or Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times it's valid, his reactions, but a lot of times it's company man talk. But also, he's a company man. I mean, you can be mad at him for defending this organization, but it's his job. It is that he is getting instructions that say talk like this, and if that's what's going to pay for it, his options right now are be a company man or leave. And maybe he doesn't want to leave. I don't know why you wouldn't want to leave right now, but I think that's the boat he's sitting in. But we should take a break here, and when we come back, we will continue this lovely discussion about where this team is headed and what's happening over at Guaranteed Rate Field. So stick with us, and we will be right back on Sharing Sox. Welcome back to Sharing Sox. The first half of the podcast, we talked a little bit about the current state of the organization, including the announcers and the validity to the haters' comments. But what would you like to talk about now, Geezer?
Well, one quick thing. I looked at this weekend. They're playing the Cardinals. Okay, they've got 6 games coming up against teams that are disappointing themselves. Not disappointing the White Sox level, but disappointing the Cardinals and the Rays, who they just swept. And I looked at the Cardinal series. I'm doing Saturday's game. Even in Saturdays, it's how ESPN, every game will give you a percentage of what team they think will win. I mean, whatever the computers are saying. And Friday night's game, it's 80-some% chance that St. Louis will win. Well, they got Sonny Gray going. Makes sense. Saturday's game would be interesting because it is Eric Fetty, who's been outstanding, against Lance Lynn, who has suddenly rediscovered how to pitch.
Yeah.
He's having a very good season. And St. Louis is the favorite against Fetty, who's been lights out. Okay, got that. It's in St. Louis. Lynn's pitching well. Sunday, Garrett Crochet, and this is a sad thing. I mean, how many podcasts did we do? Boy, Garrett Crochet is on hold. Boy, he's wonderful. He's incredible. Now he's just been.
Well, it wasn't that many because it didn't last all that long.
This is going to be it. This is our all-swip. But Sunday's game, Cardinals not very good, right? Garrett Crochet, who was your superstar for the first 2 weeks of the season, against undecided. And undecided is favorite.
That is brutal. That is just brutal. You can say a lot of things about a lot of events in your own life, and you can probably look back and say, I would have done some things differently. But at least you can look back and say, that I wasn't the underdog to undecided. I mean, that does feel good that that hasn't happened. Yeah, Crochet, I don't know. I mean, maybe he's got to be hurt, right? He's got to be hurt. I just don't understand.
Either he's a little bit hurt and he doesn't want to fess up because he was going well, and this is a chance to be a starter, which he really wants to do. He doesn't want to go back to the bullpen, and he did it well for a little bit. Maybe there's some soreness somewhere that's making him do something a little differently. Maybe he's tipping pitches. That kind of thing happens too, because other teams do research, and they might research that his arm slot goes down 5 degrees when it's going to be a slider or whatever it may be.
I could certainly see that being the case, but it does seem like it's been too many outings in a row.
Oh, it's been crushed. Yeah.
Now, the White Sox don't actually pay anybody to do that work. So it's possible that other teams are doing that analysis, and the White Sox just truly don't have anyone even trying to figure it out right now. But tipping pitches seems unlikely. You just rarely see it happen over and over. Like you don't usually see it happen more than once or twice in a row.
Yeah.
Right. And I certainly haven't noticed anything. I follow along on social media, and I haven't seen baseball White Sox Twitter noticing anything about tipping pitches from Crochet. I hope that's the case. My instinct is that something's not quite right. Mechanically, whether that's just something that needs to be worked on, or if there's an injury that is maybe not serious yet, but they have not quite figured out what's going on there. But the other thing is also, he was really good for a couple starts, and maybe we're just back to earth because batters are warming up and people are figuring out their game and they're starting to get into the flow of this long season. And it's just getting easier to hit against guys who aren't outstanding. And it's very possible that that's the situation we're in with Crochet. But it's a huge bummer. I mean, it is an absolute bummer that he has not figured it out. And I hope they are able to turn it around because I want him to succeed. I like the
guy. Meanwhile, the hitting was better. I mean, obviously it was better through the Tampa Bay series. It was actually a little better against Minnesota. It wasn't the averaging less than 2 runs a game situation. It seems to me mainly Tommy Pham that has been attending. Bless his little heart, had 2 home runs in a game and then another one right after that.
Yeah.
And it's been on base more. I think his average has crept up to 200. I think it's there.
Well, our team average is not last place. We are in 29th place. We are 5 points ahead of the Athletics, down at the 212, which is actually very interesting because there are a few teams that are doing very well right now that are down at the bottom with us. The Cincinnati Reds and the Seattle Mariners are both actually playing pretty decent baseball, and they are right ahead of us there. But we are holding up the rear in on-base percentage. We are at a 276 on-base percentage.
We took a walk just last week.
And that's probably why we are at 276 and not 270 or 272. We are not quite 100. We are about 80 points behind the Los Angeles Dodgers in on-base percentage. 80 points.
It's even scarier than the hitting has been horrendous. It's going to stay horrendous for the most part. The whole thing of Chris Getz was defense. We're going to really up our defense.
Yeah.
We're going to really improve our defense. They are 29th, according to Fangraphs, in what they call DEF, which is their kind of summation of defensive statistics. Same kind of thing with Baseball Reference, where they go on defensive runs saved. They are dead last.
Yeah, even in just raw fielding percentage, we're kind of tied for 25th, which is really, really bad. That's really, really bad.
And defensive run save. Benintendi was supposed to be good in left field. He used to be a decent left fielder. He's not now. Hasn't been for the last 2 years. Lenine Sosa, okay, he's gone. Maldonado, defensive. We're getting this guy for defense. -3 defensive runs saved already. Shoemaker, okay, rookie, give him a shot. Sheets, of course, we know is terrible. Robert is -2 defensive runs saved. That's a strange one.
Hasn't played all that much, so he probably had a couple mistakes early on.
Yeah, Pham,
bounce back.
who's supposed to be one of our saviors, he's played half a dozen games, and he's -2 defensive runs saved already. Grossman -2 defensive runs saved, and the big one, Paul DeYoung. This was supposed to solidify our shortstop position for the year, saving a place for Colson Montgomery, and he's negative. Total -26 defensive runs saved, but easily the worst in the major leagues. They got nothing. And we can get into the pitching, and it's terrible. The batting for the players, for the position players, total team. This is, of course, defense and offense. -2.4 WAR.
By May 3rd. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you're a little over a month into the season. and I mean, it's Corey Lee, by far the best, well, not by far, Moncada is second, but of those playing, the best WAR at 0.5. We have nobody who, if you extrapolate over a season, makes it to the level of being a baseball regular, except Corey Lee and Yohan Moncada.
Yeah.
Sheets, of course, is hitting quite well, but he drags down because he's so terrible defensively. And we talk about the announcers; they're covering for him. I mean, there was a play where I forget who was the second base. I think Shoemaker was rushing out as hard as he can. For a pop play, that's an almost impossible play, as we know. If you make the catch, congratulations, but you probably didn't even know you did it. And in comes Sheets, and he can't get to it. It was a very high pop up. And Sheets was it was his ball. He and Vaughn can't move. It was a pretty routine play for a right fielder who makes the break correctly and is running straight in. And we know that. I think he's better. I think it's correct. He is better than he was last year. He has worked on it hard. He is never going to be any good.
Yeah, absolutely not going to be a good defensive player at any point. That's just not going to happen. It's absolutely not going to happen. And then you look at the pitching side of things, where we are 29th in ERA at 5.15. 5.15. The only team that is worse in ERA is a team that is almost always the worst in ERA, which is the Colorado Rockies, because they play in Colorado and a lot of runs get scored.
And they're terrible.
And they're terrible. I mean, they're particularly bad. But that is the only team worse than us. Just a couple other key facts. We are tied for last in quality starts. We only have 6 quality starts this season out of 31 games. We are next to last in WHIP. Again, only the Rockies are worse than us.
The quality starts thing, too. I never liked that statistic. I just never liked it.
It's a dumb statistic, but it's definitely shocking.
If you go 6 innings and you give up 3 earned runs, that's an ERA of 4.5. That's okay, but it's not quality.
But what does that tell you? Only having 6 of those? I mean, I agree completely. That's not quality. But we don't even have 7 of those kinds of starts. I mean, that's just crazy. To only have 6 through 31 games that's really, really bad. But it does make sense if your team ERA is over 5. because that means you are not getting quality starts. Yeah, the pitching is just abysmal with the exception of a couple guys. The fielding is so much worse than we thought it was going to be, and the hitting is it's potentially going to be historically bad. As much as Tommy Pham's 375 average brings things up temporarily, I don't believe that's going to last, and I don't believe it's going to really bail us out statistically in the long run. It is really all shaping up to be, get ready, the worst team in the history of Major League Baseball. And I know it's tough. And obviously you can't compare era to era because people play against different people. We're playing against, some of the best physical athletes to ever play this game. But if our stats stay like this and we lose 130 games, how are we not the worst team in the history of Major League Baseball? Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. The 120.
You don't?
Which is the modern, which is beating the Mets. Boy, that one seems real possible.
I mean, a lot has to change for it not to happen. A lot has to change. And believe it or not, I don't think we're going to be buying at the deadline. So I don't see a world. I mean, it is certainly possible you could hit some sort of miracle little hot streak where you win,
I think they will. I think they'll have something where they win 6 out of 9, something like that.
But how? Against who? I mean, 6 out of 9 is not even going to do it. If you want to salvage what's happening here to avoid that 121 losses, then you need, probably at some point to hit like a 14 out of 19 scenario. And when is that possibly going to happen? When could it possibly happen? You look at that schedule, and the thing is, you can't look at that schedule and say, "Oh, we have these 11 games in a row against teams that aren't very good." They're all better than us. They're all better than us. Every single team, unless you had 19 games against the Marlins in a row. There is no way you are going to string together a streak like that. It just isn't possible with the people who are on the team right now. And that's not I'm not trying to be mean about them. I think they're out there playing hard, and I like a lot of the guys on this team. But who are they going to beat? Who can they beat at a consistent level? The Rays sweep, no clue how it happened. So that's possibly... that could happen again at some point in the season. I guarantee you this. They're not sweeping the Rays again.
One of those really was an umpiring thing. There was a case. You're out in California to see this, but and I just watched the replay. But there was a case where a Tampa Bay guy hit what was called a home run, and he's trotting around the bases. Sox challenge properly, and they win. It was not a home run. It bounced back into the field after hitting the top of the wall, not going over it. But the umpires then called it a single. I don't know what the rule book is on that. There's no way in hell a guy hitting a ball off the top of the wall in right field, in guaranteed rate field, with it's a double. It has to be a double. And with Gavin Sheets out there, it is probably a triple for anybody but Sherm Lawler.
Yeah.
And they gave him a single.
How did
that was in a tie game situation.
How did they justify that?
I don't know. Maybe it's a thing in the rules. If you get called a home run and it's called back, it's a I don't believe I've seen that before ever. Because it's not the first time I've ever seen a home run called back.
Yeah, I don't recall ever hearing that scenario where something gets called a home run and then you just get a single out of it. That's pretty infuriating. If I was the batter, I would probably get ejected.
I'm surprised that Kevin Cash wasn't kicked out of the game, that he wasn't out there screaming and jumping up and down, but I guess he wasn't.
Wow, I wonder if that's it's got to be an official rule, right? I
That'd
mean,
be something strange.
if they're making that decision to call it just a single on a ball that clearly would not be just a single, that is so strange. Yeah, that definitely potentially alters the outcome of a game there. Yikes. Well, I can tell you this, they're not going to sweep the Rays again. I don't think you can get swept by the White Sox and not have a come to Jesus moment and figure things out for when they come to your town.
Particularly with the research arm that the Rays have, which is awesome.
Yeah. And they, this is an analytical feast, this White Sox team. They are going to be really digging in and enjoying that. And then the series against the Cardinals are disappointing, but the Cardinals also aren't terrible. They're 14 and 17.
But our savior is going. I mentioned they're facing Sonny Gray tonight, this Friday night. Brad Keller is going for the Sox. So that's another middle finger to the fans. Now, Keller throwing it at Tim, however many years ago that was, after the famous bat flip incident, was wrong. It's not in the same category as the other pitcher that they're going to bring back later on, probably in the month of May. But he's not liked. Why bring a guy back who your fans really don't like just to give him a chance to have somebody special to boo? I don't know. But that's the thing. You're going to lose all these games. Why bring back? And in the case of the other guy, fans hate him. Probably half or more of the fan base hates him.
Yeah.
And you're bringing him back anyway. And no other team in baseball would touch either one of these guys. In Keller's case, he's been pitching badly for 2 years. He's a very good pitcher.
It's a complete disregard for and wanting to do anything correct in running an organization. It's just I hardly have the energy to even dissect how horrible Reinsdorf is anymore. But it is just a complete disregard for any effort to win, to make fans happy, to make baseball fun, to have a pleasant ballpark experience. All of that is out the door completely this year, which is another reason I want them. That's another reason I want them to. I want them to lose 140. It's not going to happen, but I want them to lose 140. I want a guy who's asking for $2 billion to have the worst team in the history of Major League Baseball. It might bounce right off him because he's so evil and stupid that it might just bounce right off him. But I would love to see it happen. I would love to see anything that can make that guy look more pathetic than he is. I would love to see it happen. So I'm not rooting against the players. I'm rooting against the White Sox. I would love to see them lose all these games. I would be very proud of hitting a historical number there because something's got to change. Something has got to change. And I don't know at this point what can make anything change because Reinsdorf is so heinous and so despicable. I don't even know what could do that. But something's got to change. And, just coming in last place, losing 112 certainly isn't going to do anything. So might as well go down bad. Just tank as hard as you can possibly tank. And we'll see what happens. That is about all the time we have for today, though. Do you have any final comments before we sign off?
Well, I have the good fortune to be leaving the country for 3 weeks after this recording. So I won't be seeing anything. That'll be kind of a welcome break. Your mother will be very happy that I don't have a television to scream at. I can tell you that.
So here's one last question I'll pose to you. You're leaving for 3 weeks, you said?
Yeah, just under, yeah.
So probably 17 games while you're gone? Something like that?
That would seem right.
16, 17, 18. We're at 25 losses right now. How many do you think we will have when you return?
36.
36. Not bad.
Maybe 38.
You're predicting a little bit of a hot streak.
38.
Let's say there's 17 games and you're saying, we're going to win 6 of them. I'm like, so That's kind of a hot take right now. I like a hot take from you. All right, so you're going to say, let's say you went with 36. I'm going to say that we will. I'm not going to go too much farther than that. I'm going to say 37. We're going to be at 37 losses when you get back. So you're saying 36. I'll say 37,
We'll see
and
how it goes.
we'll see what happens when you get back. Well, safe travels, and we will see you in a few weeks. So it seems, right here on Sharing Socks.